Hello everybody, Texas Frightmare, Saturday. How are you? Forgive the odd positioning. I feel too far away from you if I sit over there, so I'm going to just sit awkwardly in the middle. I'm Rob Galluzzo. I co-host the Shockwaves podcast. We'll just do a live show here. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here for the Silent Night Deadly Night panel. So please, let's give a warm welcome to Robert Wilson from part 1 and Eric Freeman from part 2. So this is pretty wild. I assume everybody celebrates these movies every December, right?
All year round.
All year round. That's I like that phrase. And so we know each other a little bit, and I apologize in advance. Some of our conversations and questions are going to be repetitive, but a lot of these people in the room haven't heard this stuff before, so we'll give them a little bit of insight. First and foremost, I guess the easiest question is, how did each of you become involved in your respective film, and kind of, if you can give us a little context of where you were in your career in terms of, what you were trying to accomplish as an actor and how Silent Night 1 and Silent Night 2 came to you. So why don't we start with you, Robert, first?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for coming out, folks, first of all. So, as we do in Hollywood, we get a message from our agent, and he says you have an interview, right? So, that's the way it all started for me, and I had an interview over in Studio City to read for this film, Sleigh Ride, which of course, if you know the history, the name has changed to Silent Night Deadly Night. Went in and read for the film. I did ask the casting director when I was there if there was anything in particular that she was looking for in this character. And not that I could have pulled it off, but it was just one of those standard questions we ask as actors. And what she did say was that many of the young gents coming in to read for the part before me were coming in and playing this role in a very menacing fashion. And she said, you don't necessarily need to do that. We'd rather see you just be you and just be honest. And so, to get closer to your question, for my Hollywood experience, I was very, very new to Hollywood. I really hadn't had much experience. I was kind of a discovery guy out there. Really didn't grow up doing theater or anything. I was just kind of tossed into it, and willfully. I had the opportunity and I took it. But not a bunch of experience, so I really didn't have anything outside of myself as far as character work, anything to really delve into. So what you saw in the film was exactly what I delivered in my interview there, which was me just being as truthful as I could be in delivering the author's words as truthfully as I could. And so what we found out as time went on is that that's just exactly what they wanted for that character, to be able to show his vulnerability in in that role. So that's what you guys got, and I really didn't have anything else to offer except the truth that lived within me, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Something about your performance really resonated, and that's why I think a lot of people still, love that movie as much as they do, because there's some gnarly stuff in that movie, And so for part 2, Eric, this is interesting because originally Lee Harry, who ended up directing the second one, his original assignment was, hey, just recut the first one and re-release it. But then, as time went on, he was able to convince the producers, hey, you know what? I think this would be better if I could shoot a little more footage and actually make it legitimately a sequel along with the footage from the first one. So what did you know going into audition for that film? Because I don't know another sequel that's ever been made that way. So how much did you know going in? Did you know it was a sequel to Silent Night, and kind of what was your first interaction with Lee Harry like?
All good questions. I came into it not ever seeing Robert's movie, and knowing it was a sequel, or not, sequel's the wrong word, as we all know it. It was more of an addition to the original movie, and it was only because of the violence and all the controversy of Robert's film that they just wanted to cut, let's put some additional footage in, take out some of the more harsher scenes from the first one and lighten it up and lighten it up. So I came into it not only not seeing his movie, not even really knowing about it. And Joe and Lee Harry, they wrote all this out, and I initially came to the audition as just an actor. Whenever you see an advertisement in a drama log, in this case it was an actor's newspaper for an open audition, I was up there and I read for cop number 5. That really, I came in there, and I was too late for the audition. They are, normally they all have this locked up. They know who they want. They're just kind of secondary, ancillary roles and backups. So I came in on that aspect. And I was leaving, and I said, well, who's got the lead? Because I was hungry. I had done some things in the past, but it was all, do you want fries with that, sir? And that kind of stuff. So for me, it was, can I get a chunk of dialogue? Can I get something substantial? That's what I want. That's what we all would want. So I just spoke up. And I got called back. Unwittingly, I did not know what I was reading for, secondly. But on the third time, I should say, on the second time back, is when Lee said, we want you for this. And Joe had a lot of reservations, only because they had another guy locked on this thing. Joe really liked him, and I don't blame him. When you have a lock on someone that you like, you're not entertaining someone else. So, but I again did not know about Robert's movie, and Lee and Joe were acting out the scenes they wrote to me in our final audition. We taped all this, but I was under the impression there was more of a comedic take on all of it. And so I did what I did, and entirely different from Robert's performance, which I thought was really great, subtle, and internalized it. And Caldwell, Ricky is a little bit external, to say the least. So that's how it all came to be. I came in for something completely ancillary and spoke up. And I guess that's a good rule for all of us. If you want something, ask, because they'll say no and that's it, or you'll get it.
Yeah. So, I want to provide a little context to all this, because that's why we love Ricky in part 2, is because of the way that you attack that performance. But something that I learned from the Blu-rays that came out, the Scream Factory Blu-rays are terrific. If you don't have them, you got to pick them both up. But I was really thinking about this. So, Eric, how many days did you actually shoot on Silent Night, Deadly Night 2? Because it's only a couple, right? How many days was it?
It was 5. There was
5 days.
7 total days. I was on for 5.
All right. Think of any job you've done in your life for 5 days. Okay? I worked at Spencer Gifts for 3 days, like 15 years ago, and I can't remember a fucking thing about it. So can you imagine? Here's the thing. Can you imagine doing a gig for 5 days, and then all these years later, what people remember from it, like Garbage Day, right? It's so just to contextualize, he came in and did a gig for five days, and here you all are. Which is kind of amazing. But talking about the environment on both those films, what were those 5 days like? And Robert, how long were you on yours?
I think I was there for about 3 weeks. We were in
3
Utah,
weeks,
so,
yeah.
They kept me around for a bit.
Whether
they needed me or not, just in case.
Yeah, well, you did all the heavy lifting in the second one, since they just reused all your stuff for that part. But what was it like? Because one of the cool things on Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, the Blu-ray, is there's a great segment where Eric goes to a lot of the shooting locations with somebody today to see them again. So, what was that? I mean, again, it's like a blip. It's like a week. What was it like doing that week's work and then going back for the Blu-ray to revisit those spots? Because that's amazing.
No, that was interesting, because is Robert Patterson. He's a friend of Justin Beam, that was the producer of our Blu-rays, and he had scoped all this out, the locations, by using GPS. A lot of hard work. I don't know how he quite did it, but I know it was difficult. Going back on these locations was interesting. Only you'd start grabbing the location. Oh, okay, that we did that here, and we did this on the grass, and it's very interesting. But it was 5 hurried days, and a couple of those days were just packed. Oh, just I was on for 5, but the reality is I was probably really on for 3 hard days, long day, and Robert knows that for 3 weeks of it. But there's no breaks. There's no time to do a second take and such. You got to move on. And the main producer, Larry Applebaum, was on the set. Lee was just he's worn out, and he was beaten down pretty bad. But he was trying to do everything. But we did what we did, and it caught well. I would say that Lee did really well on getting the vibe and feel from the first one and seaming that in.
Well, Lee is a terrific editor. That was his first job. When you see what he did on Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, it makes sense that he was as terrific an editor as he was. One fun thing that I don't know if it's touched upon on the discs, but look, the reason we love these movies is the kills, the good stuff. So for both of you, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about kind of orchestrating the sequences, working with the actors, and working with effects. Robert, for you first, because you've got a lot of really cool stuff, whether it's chopping somebody's head off on the sled. Linnea Quigley's got one of like the quintessential 80s deaths. How did you guys approach some of that stuff? And as an actor, how do you how do you act with Linnea, knowing she's going to be naked and on a deer at some point? It's just the sensitivity of tackling that stuff.
That's a great question. It's really kind of there's a fine line there between getting what is being captured on film, what the cameraman needs to see, and where you have to be in these shots. So that's a mental process. Those are spots we have to hit, right, in order to get it so you guys can see what's going on. Then there's the whole process that takes place within, which is the character. What you're feeling at that time and how you live that, as well as going through the steps of camera technique, if you will. So with Linnea, that was again, this was all very new to me. So obviously I'd seen film and I'd seen plays, but to actually be the guy there doing it, it was amazing to me. It was truly the kills. Not that we all love that as when we watch the films, and for myself, that was of course. There's an energy that takes place on the set when that's going to happen, and you if you're in touch with that energy, sometimes it can take you away from it, and sometimes it can take you into it. And for myself, because of my lack of experience and whatnot, to be able to separate that, I don't think I had that ability at that time. I really felt the vibe, the energy. And I wrote on that, and it's like when we're kids playing and we're playing make believe, and we lose ourselves completely in that act, that fun. And I can't say that working in film, doing that type of stuff was as much playing as I had ever done as a child. So it was a fantastic experience to do the kills. Certainly that's my favorite parts in the film. I'm just a normal guy, trust me.
You always hear comedies are like on set. Doing a comedy on set, everyone's like really dour. Yes, doing a horror, everyone's laughing and having fun at the ridiculousness of the things you're doing.
Exactly, Rob. Yes, and so that was one of the scenes with Linnea that was extremely memorable, and then also one that was very memorable is when the kids were coming down the hill on the sleigh. Yeah. And that was just a weird prep. Again, I go back to my childhood. I have a sports background. My family, we play sports. On Sundays, we didn't go to church. We talked about sports and watched sports. So in that shot, it was the cameraman coming down the hill, and I had to make a left-handed swing like a good left-handed hitter, and swipe that axe right over the camera's head. He was coming down on the sled, and he had the camera right here in his face, and I had to lop that axe right over his camera in his head, and he said, "Don't miss." And, I felt like I hit a home run on that one. No, the kills are great. Always enjoyed all of them. I also liked shooting the bow and arrow in the store, and playing that game where I was walking through the store, reciting the old, nothing is stirring.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and those sledders definitely had it coming. So, and for Eric, with the second one, there's some really cool stuff. Like in particular, I know the car battery sequence is kind of fun, where the guy purposely puts his sunglasses on right before just so they could explode, and that gag, which is amazing. But I'm wondering how that went on the second movie, especially with the time constraints. The fact that you guys didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a good question for me as well, because I didn't know day to day what we were doing. I usually would ask wardrobe, do you know what pages we're shooting today? It's not normal at all, but in this case it was completely normal. That morning it was a rapid fire. A lot of the things people like was one day, and but Liz and I were walking down the sidewalk, and I said something like, "There's something I have to show you," or whatever, and he was normal, Ricky, but then it went right into Chip and putting the glasses thing was the fact they screwed up in continuity. He should have had the glasses on the whole time, and then Lee figured out the last second, you better have glasses on because they need to explode. So he put them on, and then but so we pin his head down on the grill of the Mustang and do the thing, but it went right from there. It was rapid fire, and then we went over like 10 feet to the grass, and it was the antenna gag with Liz Caton and strangling her, and then off to Kenny McCabe Rent-A-Cop. It was boom, 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 and then they did that the stunt with the car with Spiro Razzotto's first stunt he ever did. The first day, first stunt, and that car's like missed him by 6 inches or less, and they all.
You guys have noticed that, right? I didn't know until Lee's commentary on the DVD. There's the stunt with the car, but literally I gasp every time I see it, because when you pay attention, they like almost killed that stunt guy. The car misses him by like that much.
It looks like it hits him.
Yeah, it looks like it's hits.
I mean, it does.
So watch that really closely and shudder now every time you watch it.
Yeah. Just to end that, we broke for that big scene. Whatever, of course, the car has to explode, because that's what they do, because they're built so poorly. And then we went into garbage day, and whatever. That was a longer sequence actually of walking and coming back in and being Caldwell, so but the day was long, and it ended. We did other things, I know, because that day was packed from sunrise to sunset and beyond, and then wore the Santa suit and walked into the house, the Mother Superior house. That's the way the day ended. I remember that. So a lot in that day, a lot of the fan favorites, if you will, packed into a tight amount of time. And it worked.
Yeah. Did you get a sense, question for both of you, but you just mentioned obviously at some point both of you have to wear a Santa costume and kill people in it. The first one caused such a stir. I mean, a lot of people don't remember, but it opened, the reason they were trying to recut one was because it opened against Nightmare on Elm Street and actually was outperforming Nightmare on Elm Street, but it got pulled so fast that they're like, shit, how can we make more money on this movie again? Let's just recut it and re-release it. Did you, before the controversy, when you're on set, did you have any reservation of like, is this wrong that I'm in a Santa costume killing people? Like, how are people going to respond to this? Like, did that even come across?
It never occurred on set, Rob. I'll tell you, I took my family, okay? First of all,
They still your family?
they didn't talk to me for a while. But so I got invited to the screening after it was all ready to go. And I invited my family because, again, as I said earlier, I was new to Hollywood, and I thought, hey, here's my first film, and how exciting. Come with me to the screening, and so we watched the film, and that's when I really knew that something was wrong, I'm thinking, hey man, I'm out there making movies, and come on and check it out, come to Hollywood, and my family's somewhat conservative, not completely, but they didn't speak to me, certainly right after the film. My father didn't, I don't think he raised his eyes from the floor. He just looked and walked out, and my brother asked me, what in the hell did you do? So that's when it all occurred to me, because I get a good vibe from my family about what's right and what's wrong. They know. And yeah, right away I got this really terrible feeling that I did something really bad. So, but it's turned out great. Look at you guys, man. This is amazing.
And what about you, Eric? Was there any trepidation in the second one? Just the idea of putting a Santa costume on, and I mean, here's the thing: we know it's not really Santa Claus. I mean, it's obviously a crazy person dressing up as them. But were you even aware of the controversy of the first one when you were doing that stuff for the second one?
Look, I don't know if it was purposeful by Lee or Joe, but look, I was kept in the dark. I didn't even get to look at the movie. I mean, they didn't offer it, or. And I really didn't know the controversy as we do now, or back then I didn't know the movie was in and got pulled, et cetera, et cetera. I just knew it didn't work well, and you know, they were trying to recoup some costs, and so I did what I did, and it wasn't. Look, this is so low budget. I had to find the movie on my own. I found it some kind of an urban theater in Culver City, and. They're screaming at the screen, you know, during the movie, and don't go in there, and whatever. And so I was watching the back. It was a half full audience, and I didn't mind in the sense that I knew it was going to die, and it did. And it was fine by me, because I was like, yeah, well, you know, $1,600, 5 days worth of work. That's the way it was, and I was poor and. Paid my bills, and you know, I even was negotiating. I wanted to buy Larry Applebaum's like a GTO that we shot out the back side. It was convertible, and I was like, can I give you some money and my pay for this car? I wanted that. No, I didn't care. So to me, it was a gig, and you know, I knew what I did. I was over the top. So to me, it's like, hey, let it die. And I grabbed the poster on the way out of that theater, rolled it up, put it in my closet, and didn't even look at that for 25 years.
Yeah, because I mean, contextually, like, movies would come out and they would disappear. Like, video was just hitting when these movies were coming out. But I mean, nobody could have predicted that. A lot of people would make movies in the 70s and 80s just for the theater experience, and then it would die out and no one would ever see it again. So I'm sure you guys never expected it to come back in anyway. And now you're both action figures, which is pretty fucking amazing. Does everybody own an action figure of both of you? But when did it come back for both of you? Like, at what point did you realize, like, holy shit, that job that I worked a few days, you know, all those years ago, is people are talking about it still?
Right. For myself, I got a letter from one of the co-producers, and he invited me to a 30-year anniversary. So, as Eric said, 25 years. Mine was 30 years. And again, I put the film kind of, you know, just in, I had moved on with my life. I mean, 30 years later, I get this letter from the producer, and he's asking if I would like to attend the 30-year anniversary at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood. And yeah, thanks. And I'm like, whoa. And he says, in the letter, he says, I know you don't do this kind of stuff, and I know you've removed yourself from Hollywood and all that. And I'm like, what? Who said that? So apparently there's this whole dialogue going on out there in the world of social media at its you know, onset at that point, that I had removed myself from Hollywood and didn't want anything to do with it. Lo and behold, I live in Burbank, so I don't know if you know the location. Basically, that's Hollywood over the hill. But so I had not removed myself from the industry. I had just taken on other responsibilities. I have 3 children, so I was doing my best to be a good dad and a husband. Thank you. I love my family. My wife's terrific. Everything's great. So I was just doing my best to take care of that type of business. And so I get this letter, and it has his phone number on there, and I promptly called him up and said, this is Robert Wilson. And he says, oh my gosh, I can't believe you called. I said, what's going on? Why are you talking like this? Why are you writing me this letter like this? Like I'm so detached from the business. I live in Burbank. And he's like, I know, but I don't, you know, I'm just careful about these things. And I said, you don't need to be careful. I'd love to come to the anniversary. And is it okay if I bring my wife? And he's like, absolutely, we'd love to have you. So lo and behold, I go to the 30-year anniversary. And so I'm reintroduced then at that point, you guys. It was shocking. We have a great crowd here. You can imagine the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood. It was sold out, and I walked in like just the guy that I am on the street where I live. Nobody gives a damn who I am. Just occasionally they'll wave at me, and occasionally I'll wave back. I'm just another guy. So I walked into the theater, and within 10 minutes, people started coming up to me going, you know, because I'm bald now, and you know, all that, you know, and changed as we do. And they're looking at me kind of like, is that him? That's him. And my wife's going, are these people looking at you? And I go, I think they are. And of course, then it just took off. And once it broke open, they you know, folks wanted autographs, and as you know, this has turned into, well, when I go home after a weekend like this, it takes me a couple days to decompress. My wife has to just kind of ignore me for a while, because I really, yeah, check my ego, thank you. Yeah, I'm a little bit, you know, this is overwhelming. I'm just, I'm blown away by the fact that Rob and I spoke about it just a brief moment at the back before we walked up here, that if someone would have said 35 years ago, hey, do you think that in 35 years this film will be happening? Do you think that you'll be signing autographs? Do you think you'll be going to horror cons? I would have said, hell no. Hell no. I mean, of course, I mean, that's, if you can put yourself 35 years back, we didn't have the computers, we didn't have the social media. So all of that has just brought this film and my ego to some spot that it really doesn't belong. So, but at the same time, I'm very thankful that you guys all appreciate it, and it's truly an honor to be here. Thank you.
I rented these movies as a kid, and now like I'm sitting on stage with, you know, Ricky and Bill. It's like ridiculous. Eric, for you, I mean, here's the funny thing. I don't know if you had a similar situation where you weren't really in hiding, but there was a whole movement by this guy right here called Finding Freeman. And it was like this mysterious thing, like, what happened? He disappeared. So, I mean, what happened? Did you disappear? And when you heard this, you're like, why are they looking for me?
You know, ironically and coincidentally, Robert's story is much like mine. They assumed we were both like Rip Van Winkle or something. We both, you know, and so I didn't even know. Look, maybe it's some fault of mine, but I'm not on the social sites, and I really wasn't paying abreast of what was going on out there, Finding Freeman and Garbage Day, you know, all the millions of hits and all that. But I didn't find out till just, you know, I guess 5 years ago, somewhere in there, and Robert didn't, you know, it was like 2013 or something, or 30 years. A buddy of mine, my brother passed away, and I had a car of mine he was holding on, and I had to go back and work on it, as you would, because it's sad. But I got it over to Civilization, where a friend of mine lived, and he said, Eric, you got to look at this. I told you that when you were out in the memorial and it was winter, you got to look at this site. You got to look at and his brother, John James, was always looking at this, keeping abreast of what, you know, the Caldwell search. And I said, what did I do? What? And he said, you did a movie way back when, late 80s, and I said, okay, yeah. And he said, well, it's something. And, you know, so I went down to their basement and looked on this computer screen, and we find the good and the bad of what people said, and I seemed to follow down the path of the bad, but and I was like, wait a minute, you were there. And so you kind of, you know, and I was my car was old, it was a 65 Mustang, so I had no radio, no nothing, but I'm driving home and thinking, well, that person's way wrong, and they weren't there, and I'll show them. But I had thought, you know, so I dreamed up like Caldwell coming back, and I worked on that in my head, completely fleshed it out. But it was very similar. It's Robert's situation where, you know, I was dead. I was a gigolo in Thailand. I was a priest.
All awesome lives to have.
So it is, yes, you know, some of it that maybe was good. I don't know, but it was a similar situation where they just, well, he's turned his back on the business and he just couldn't get good roles, or he tried, or whatever. So it was all this and that, but reality is his life intervened.
Yeah, and I really wish, it's interesting because I've just always been a fan of both these movies, in particular, no offense Robert, but two I love.
What?
Unapologetically. And we have a theater in Los Angeles called the New Beverly, and every December they show Black Christmas, and they usually pair it with another movie. It's usually Silent Night, Deadly Night, the first one. But there was one year, and I think I had just gotten in touch with Lee Harry, the director of the second one, where they showed the second one. And here's a sold-out crowd, and Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, nobody had seen it in the audience. It played like a fucking rock concert. And that's the thing, is these films play so much differently to people like you that have already seen them on video a bunch, and then you get together, it's like being part of a club. Like you're together with all these people that grew up in this movie, now all of a sudden it plays in a completely different context. But then they tried to do it again, I think, as a midnight, and that was the first time that you surprisingly showed up. And unfortunately, that screening wasn't as packed because they didn't advertise it as well. And so I wish you could have seen that first screening that I was at, because it was so cool. But since then, they've done subsequent screenings and all that. And that was my long roundabout way of telling you how much I appreciate the movie and how much a lot of people appreciate, in particular, the second one. I know you have kind of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe a love-hate relationship with this film because again, context, you worked on it for 5 days, you only got 1 or 2 takes on everything, and you probably feel like you could have done better compared to people's harsh critiques of the film. So on Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, the Blu-ray that Scream Factory put out, he did a little short film of what if Ricky Caldwell, what if you talk to him now? And it's really fucking cool. It's good, and it's like, so hats off to you. You should check that out because I love the Ricky character. And I think he deserves more love. So.
Yeah.
So was that short film like something you wanted to do all along?
I was contacted by the Shout Factory, like Robert was, for Blu-ray and all this. And my first thought, and not negative, but I said, no. He wanted me to do this and add to it. And the reason I thought no is, it seemed like, as kind as Justin was asking me, and I wanted to say yes, I wanted to kind of get my way with some things out. I didn't want it to just be a Blu-ray release without any. What would draw people to buy this if it was just a release? So they already have it in a 2-pack or whatever. They already have this movie. What other than it being a Blu-ray and a higher quality or such? I just didn't. I wanted to make it more because it was important to me. Like, hey, let's put some extras in here. I like looking at the making of, or the scenes or whatever. I watched The French Connection the other day, only not for the movie, but the making of this and how cool that was. So for me, it was like, can I take control of this, somewhat like a director would think. And I thought, look, I'd love to revisit this character and get Robert in, of course, because Robert. But so I said, hey. Justin, I'll do this if we can revisit Ricky in the asylum. If we can do this, and he was like, oh, all right. And I didn't, it's not like they gave us any money, so this was my way out, my way, or I won't do it. And it wasn't mean or anything. I just wanted to get something in there, some meat on the bone. So, but we envision also how we would like this to play out, Ricky in the asylum all these years later. Oh, I'll have some room, I'll be able to move around like the original. I didn't know they were going to stick me in a closet and say, well, we got 20 minutes. But
it doesn't look like that. That's the beauty of it.
It's the reality of it. We went long in our interview, as you would normally do, and they had the heck out of that. But it turned out we just had no time. We just had a little storage closet to do it in. And so it was entirely opposite of how I envisioned it, as we always have to get ready for. So it was good. It was good to do all those little things, because I think that's what it's special now, the Blu-ray.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't seen it a bit, but don't you reference the movie? Like, are you like the real Ricky, and like, oh, that movie got everything wrong or something like that?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah.
remembering that correctly? It's a cool short. You got to check it out on the disc for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to approach it as if he's the real Ricky in the asylum, and they're coming to him of asking him what did you think of the movie you just saw, and you know, so he has critiques. He seems to like the Caldwell character a lot. He seems to think he nailed pretty accurate of what his life was. So you know, you do what you can in the minutes you have. It was an odd situation of I wrote 6 pages and then I have to recite the 6 pages. I was like, well, I know I wrote it, but I didn't memorize it. But yeah, I did on the spot. So it came out.
Cool. Well, thanks for that. And I'm glad you included that. Robert, when did your kids see the movie? Because that's what I'm curious about. Is there comes a point for a lot of people that are parents, like, when is it okay to start showing them horror? What's the good horror to show? But for you, you're the killer in this. So at what point did your kids know? Was it one of those things they brought up, like their friends told them, you know, your dad's in this movie, or was it kind of a little bit of a secret to them?
Yeah, it was kind of a secret. Yeah, I didn't bring it up to him. I really didn't talk about it. Of course, once I started having children, I had removed myself from Hollywood, and I was doing other things. And so it wasn't like I was going out on auditions and they were curious about what I was doing that day. So as they were growing up, we never really talked about the film. Again, it had just been kind of put on the back burner. My entire Hollywood resume had been put on the back burner. It was never really talked about in the house. To answer the question, you know, we've never sat down as a family and watched the film. My daughter is 16, so she hasn't seen the film, and the brothers, they're a little bit older, and my second son, he claimed last Christmas that he's never seen it. All right? And my oldest son doesn't want to talk about it. So I'm not sure whether he's seen it or not, but their friends have talked about it, and I think that I don't think they want to see me in that light. I don't know. I mean, at some point, I'm just going to throw it on because it's something they need to see. You know, they especially. You know, as a parent, sometimes you feel like, what a sacrifice I made. So I think they need to see it soon.
Yeah, I agree. Why don't we open up to the audience for a little bit? Right here, you have a question?
So I noticed, like, first time watching the movie, that you guys were very physically imposing, like in your shirtless scenes, especially you, Eric. Like, I was like, God, this guy must be like a bodybuilder with steroids. I don't know. But when you guys were cast for the film, did you guys have to do any sort of training or anything before you get into the film, or was the casting call for that specific type of body type, very fit, very big? It was something I hadn't really seen in movies, in horror movies, up to that point.
Talking about your physique, both of your physique when you made this movie.
Yeah, no, there was no special training or anything. Again, I have an athletic background, so I was always involved in sports, and I loved working out, and I loved all that stuff. So that was just a part of who I was at that time.
Yeah.
Eric?
No, look, Robert looked great. I thought he was, you know, he looked like the muscular Ken doll killer. It was great, but very internalized. The role was just very juicy, very just excellent. Hell, I was working. You know, that was my thing. You know, I wasn't that handsome in Hollywood compared to what I would go out. Look, these guys were beautiful. You go to auditions and the stack of resumes 4 feet high for a call, and you got to beat all these guys and get the job. And so for me, it was. I'm among the prettiest men in the world here, and trying to get this job. So I already liked bodybuilding, and it came in from you know, a life of you know, getting my ass kicked by other people. So I came in on that thing, forgot all about that. That dissipated when I enjoyed the actual sport of it. So it helped me. It helped me a lot. It got me the role, but more so, it gives you a lot of discipline and man, you own the room. You know, let's face it. You feel good about yourself. You own the room. So it helped me get an edge where in those days there wasn't really a lot of that.
Yeah, how would you stand out?
Before it was just, maybe it was 5 years or 10 years later, I don't know, but then that was the thing to do, to be in shape or whatever. But there was a time when, I would do well in these auditions, quite frankly. You'd get close, and usually they'd have the heavy hitter that would get the guy that already is on that network with the show would get the job. Again, I'm backup, but I would do well. Being ready. I always just let me be ready when they'll call me, and I'll be sharp and tight, and that was my angle, because I wasn't the prettiest guy in the room, but I knew I could deliver the goods. They also were kind of models, and in a general sense, the male models in that era were stupid. So you can come in and
Still are.
so you can if you got an edge, you can read it. I did better with roles that were really more tailored to me.
Did you ride a bike around that time? Like an actual motorcycle, like you do in the movie?
Yeah,
Because I picture that was you then, like leather jacket, riding a bike.
Yeah, I had a bike. It was a 750 Honda. I bought it brand new, but prior to that movie, I got. As you would figure, I got someone confronted me, I broadsided him, and I trashed it. But it was the best thing for me, because having a motorcycle is foolish. I mean, you're asking to die. And so, but yeah, that was kind of what we did. We were young and athletic, and it helped. For me, it was a definite. More than anything, I would think it would be confidence.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked, hey, who's got the lead? Because I was, okay, let the balls out there, what the hell? But it's just a good, it's a good philosophy to live by. If you think you're ready, let the boss know,
More quick, right here.
This is actually for both of you. What was the most challenging scene in the film for you?
Most challenging scene of your respective film.
I'd have to think on that. I would refrain and let you feel this one. I'll be right behind.
Yeah, for me, it was when I was in the store, and Mr. Sims told me that that it was, this is what you do on Christmas, and there was that transition of where Billy was just an innocent bystander to all that had happened in his life, to where he made the switch to where he was going to become a killer. It was tough. That was tough, but it was a really a great experience to go through that, and then to later see that on film, because it was what I was feeling.
Right here. Oh, did you have a challenging moment you wanted to?
I would like to just comment on Robert. I think the beauty of Robert's film is there was so layers. He was able to, emote and get. There was demands on him, not just physicality or such, but clearly that I can't really say there was anything. My character, it was, he was what he was.
There's 5 different Rickies in part 2. Just I counted once.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is I couldn't. I didn't have the luxury. I don't want to say luxury. I didn't have a standard script where you can cry or you can show. I guess I could have. I was green too, very green. So maybe there was points in there I could have had, arc or whatever you might say. That's some emotional time there where you can pull back and show the audience that you're human.
Yeah.
So, but I can appreciate where Robert had a real movie and he was able to, and it's something that was well written.
Yeah.
And so that's cool.
No, that was honestly a surprising answer. I thought you would go for something physical that was challenging, and you went that moment where you have to make that switch. That's cool.
Right. Well, thanks. And with that thought, to be quite honest about it, the physical stuff was the easiest stuff for me. I've been performing in athletics for years, so the physical part is the easy part for me. And it's probably the same, perhaps, for most actors. It's of course, revealing what's inside. That's a challenge. So, but it was very growing, very great experience for me in film to be able to do that. And that's what I love about acting.
Okay, a couple more questions right here.
So I have a million questions.
Not a million, one.
Because I do think that both films are some of the, and I've met Robert yet, it's one of I think that is one of the most underrated films ever, because to me it still stands out, and I enjoy both thoroughly. But when they pulled Silent Night, Deadly Night from the cinemas per se, were you made aware of that, and was there a specific reason provided to you as to why?
Great question. I became aware of it, but they never. I mean, the reason why was that mothers were upset and Catholics with regard to the Mother Superior and Santa, and so. And again, the moment I walked out of that screening, with regards to how my family felt about it, I felt something as well. So then when it came out that it was pulled just shortly after the screening, it was released. And so this was all in a short period of time. I did feel that, that perhaps because of the, again, we're talking 36 some years ago, we weren't as film goers used to this type of film, one that crossed over into that area. Now we're good with it. We've seen enough that we're okay with it. But then I understood it. I got it. That they were pulling it for those reasons. It wasn't like I was up in arms about it, saying, "Oh my gosh, come on, you Catholics, come on, come on, moms." I was actually like, yeah, I get it, So I was okay with it, and that's life, right? That's life.
And lastly, just to chime in real quick, what is each of your favorite kill scene?
Favorite kill in your respective film?
Oh, mine's simple. I had that sequence, so it was all good. But and don't get me wrong, but I like Liz Caton a lot. I just liked wrapping that car antenna around her. It was just because he was out the chain at that point. So
I love her little gulp too, right before you do it.
she was great.
My favorite is the moviegoer, by the way. I think we've all wanted to do that to enjoy the movie.
Yes.
And Robert, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, for myself, it was again, it was kind of sneaking through the store, and playing that game that we play as children, and where the person is, or they're out there, and you're quietly sneaking up on them. That was a nice sequence, starting with the axe on the phone cord, and then chasing her through the store. It really had a nice build, It's like a good sex scene.
I love it. Thank you guys.
Let's do two more quick questions. That gentleman back there? Yes.
You guys made these two films respectively. You were young, and you got a chance to work alongside a variety of different other actors and actresses, some of them older, some of them more experienced. Was there anything that stuck out in your minds, maybe killing time between scenes or something like that was said to you by one of these other people that stuck with you either as an actor or just in life in general?
For myself, it was Mother Superior, Lillian Chauvin. She was instrumental in what you saw in the film. Once I got to the hotel we were staying at while we were shooting, I think I asked her, or she asked me, if we could run through some of the scenes that we were going to do. And right out the gate, she knew that I was green, and she was a instructor, a teacher in Hollywood as well, at the time. So she offered me her instruction, her direction, if you will. She was instrumental. What you saw in the film was a lot of her helping me understand what the camera was going to pick up, which, being a new actor, you don't know, when the camera's right here, you can't have a lot of crazy movement. You've got to stay still and internalize what's going on. And she taught me that within a couple hours of working with the script in the hotel room there in Utah. So Lillian Chauvin, she's no longer with us, but she was instrumental in my development and what you see in that film.
What about you, Eric? Was there anybody on set that?
No, but I wanted Lillian, I tell you. But I probably wouldn't be here if she was coaching me. I wouldn't be here. It's funny. There was no time. I mean, I could answer this in 3 seconds. There's no time to talk to anybody. The most time I had with an actor would have been James Newman, the psychiatrist. And I think he was kind of holding on to what he was doing. I mean, it was just a blip. So it's a good question, but I think that Robert's film, it was the best question for Robert, really, because it's full movie and fleshed out. The way it was shot and the scenes unfolding the way they did it, I'm glad to hear they had someone there, some sort of counsel when you needed it. So that's cool. Good question.
One last question, right here.
Just a quick, I understand y'all guys did work together briefly in a cameo on yet another Christmas movie. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. We did a film called
Husband for Christmas.
Husband for Christmas. Thank you. David Dakota directs many films in Hollywood.
You've seen at least 35 David Dakota.
Thank you.
I guarantee.
Yes. Yeah. He thought it would be cool to get the two of us together and do a scene, and it was very cool. It was actually, Eric can probably tell a little bit about the story, if you will, about us kind of getting acquainted.
Yeah. Robert, I think, was surprised that I might be showing. And I still, to this day, I don't know that Robert and I kind of connected. Not because we had a scene together, but rather a lot of actors were waiting, a lot of extras were waiting, and we were supposed to be in and out in half an hour on this thing, but we were there for several hours because, that's the way it goes. But Robert and I made a friendship. I had no clue. I was talking to Robert Wilson, which would have been cool. But yeah, we made friends, and we did our work. It seems that when I worked for David Dakota in the last couple films, that the sound doesn't work when I'm doing my line, and this happened to be in this one too. It's a curse, I guess. It must be, because I did a movie years back for David as well. Same thing. It was Jeff Conaway and a lot of stars from back then. And I was a bar patron that dropped some lines, and that went all sideways, and they threw some guy's voice in my character's mouth. And so when this happened, and I went and looked at the screening, I was already warned that they lost the sound on it. So I think I'm cursed with David, and I'm going to stay away from it from here on out, because I'm not winning on it at all. That's the way it went. It was a good little surprise for us, and we worked together. And of course, Robert was great. It was a good time.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out today. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Robert. Go see the